Call to order the Avon Town Council meeting for 11 May 2023. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Julie, would you mind taking a roll call, please?
Greg Zuzan.
Present.
Don Loudon.
Present.
Robert Pope.
Present.
Tim Roberts.
Present.
Steve Eisenbarth.
Present.
First item, the consent agenda, which includes the check register for today, the memorandum for executive session on the 20th, and the approval of our council meeting minutes on the 27th of April. Any comments, questions, or if anyone would like to make a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the check register for May 11th, 2023, and the memorandum, and the minutes from the meeting on April 20th.
And 27th.
And 27th, excuse me.
We have a first. You seconding that then, Greg?
Second.
We have a first and a second. Julie, would you take a roll call vote, please?
Greg Zuzan.
4.
Don Loudon.
4.
Steve Eisenbarth.
4.
Tim Roberts.
4.
Robert Pope.
4. Next item on the agenda is public comment. This is the first of 2 public comment opportunities. If you would like to speak, please come forward. Please come forward to the microphone, state your name and address, and limit your time to 3 minutes. Seeing no one come forward, we'll close that section of public comment and move on to department updates. Mike, you're already standing up.
I like standing. Good evening, Council. I'm Mike Tully, Director of Planning and Building for the Town of Avon. You have my report for April 2023 in front of you. I'd like to take a moment to direct you to the bottom of the front page to show you on the reported construction value and total revenue collected so far this year. Looks really good, to say the least. I'm ecstatic with the numbers that we're coming up with this year, and that includes no large box warehouses or anything. So my thanks goes out to the entire building staff and planning staff. They've done an awesome job so far this year. So if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
What is the makeup of that? Because that's 4 times higher than the previous year.
A big bulk of it is all the school projects. We have Avon Academy, which is the old admin center. Got a project at the transportation center, adding office spaces. We have 2 additions to Pine Tree Elementary, and there's a 5-phase project at the high school.
So it's somewhat misleading because they don't pay taxes.
Correct.
Thank you.
But they sure take up a lot of time.
Any other questions? Thanks, Mike.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, Council. Jared Wade, Communications Director for the town. Just a few quick things to talk about. One, the business videos that I have talked about in the past have begun recording. The cool part about that is we're going to start rolling those out on social media and on our website here soon. The first 2 local businesses is Marcia's Catering in Orange Leaf. Orange Leaf is a kind of an unusual one because the owners actually went to Avon High School. They met working at Orange Leaf. They got married, and then they turned around in 2019 and bought the Orange Leaf. And they're very, very successful. They're doing all kinds of really cool things. One of the unusual things that I did not expect about this video program was finding out some really fun little details and history in the owners and why they are here in Avon. So I would encourage you to watch those videos, maybe even take a journey out and visit those businesses, talk with them a little bit more. We've got Angel has been doing a fantastic job reaching out to the local businesses and scheduling time. We're actually right now, just due to how much time these take. We can do one a week, and we're booked out through the end of July, and they've got more people reaching out saying we want one. So it's hitting something good, which is fantastic, and it's a great way to celebrate the businesses that are choosing to call Avon home. The Avon banner program is in full swing. This is something that I've talked about a couple times over the last couple months. I've had several meetings with the company that is overseeing it called CGI, and they've actually sent some early design artwork over to me, and I've kind of shared that with the staff here, got some input from Ryan, from, I don't know, Julie, have I showed you some of that artwork yet? No? Okay, good. So gotten some good impact or some good feedback from everybody about how that is going to look, and we have some more meetings set up, and hopefully those will be rolling out here fairly soon. Also, the Republican is going to be releasing a new little thing that some of you probably know about. It's called a Focus on the Town. It's this really neat insert that's going to be going into the Republican, and it's literally focused on the town of Avon. They just done one, I believe, for Amo, and then as well as for Brownsburg. They're doing all of the towns in Hendricks County. This is a partnership that the Republican has with HCCF, and it's going to be a really nice spread of detail, the history of Avon, what's happening, where we're going, and everything in between. I just want to give a shout out to them for reaching out, and their focus on truth and honesty and being a true journalistic newspaper, wanting to get the truth out there is admirable. So I appreciate them and their team for doing that. Lastly, on a personal note, I want to give a thank you to everybody here, staff-wise. Earlier this week, there sadly was a young lady that passed away, and one of our staff members here, a couple of the staff members here actually knew this young lady. I'm not going to go into a lot of details about what happened, but I am going to talk a little bit about how important and amazing the staff was in supporting the staff members that were affected. These are friends. This was a schoolmate for one person. This was a friend that another person saw almost weekly. And to see the entire staff just kind of come around and support these members that work here, that I think mental health is a big conversation and a big talking point a lot of times. It's one thing to have it being a talking point, and it's something else to actually seeing it be applied. So I applaud everybody that was able to comfort and to respect those individuals as they went through that time of grief. So that's all that I have, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
No questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Jared. Don't be shy, Keaton.
Good evening. My name is Keaton Olson with the Public Works Department, and we've got a few updates. We finished paving on Bluewood, and we're moving on to Avon Avenue, doing an improvement just south of 100 South there. And then after that, we will be moving into Pines of Avon, Gold Coin, and Monterey Circle. And we also have been doing some skip patching. We got some done on Nicole and 900. And also we are doing the spring cleanup. We've got our mowing contractors hitting it heavy out there and trimming trees, and we're making it look beautiful out there. And should be about it. Oh yeah, and street sweeping. They're moving into the southwest quadrant. So, all good.
Any questions?
Just a comment. Excellent on Pines of Avon, just having everything staked out and protected in the area for the residents, and having the sidewalk closed signs. That's always appreciated.
Thank you. Yeah.
Good. And then also the pavement markings on 100 South, they look really nice. They're really great, very well defined going in the roundabouts, and so it's just nice. So appreciate that.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Keaton.
Thank you.
Good evening. Shelby Marshall, I'm the Parks Director. It is mowing season, yay. And our first lawn treatments have been done at all of the properties. And then also lake and pond treatments have been done and will continue to be done monthly until the fall. We hosted the Susie's Place Donut Drive last Friday, 2 Fridays ago. It was really great. We're really glad that we could be a part of it. And I don't know if Sean will talk about it, but the PD was a part of it as well. So thanks to everyone that came through and supported Susie's Place for that. The same day was Arbor Day. It was April 29th. We provided the Arbor Day tree ceremony and planted 4 trees at the Goddard School. So we had 2 classrooms actually come out, and they were a part of the ceremony and got to push dirt in and love on the tree a little bit. It was great. So we want to thank them for their support and allowing us to do that. And then the first summer concert of the season is next Friday. So come on out. It will be at the Firkins property, and wear your tie-dye. Oh, any questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Shelby.
Good evening. John Taylor, Economic Development Director. And I can honestly say at my house, or the house is up 50 feet from the bottom of the property, I've never said, yay, it's mowing season. Mike had a conversation with the construction foreman at Van Trust this week, and they said that they've got a tenant for their building. I've left a message for the guy at Van Trust, and he called me back today and said he's on vacation and we will talk on Monday. But they're going to start talking about putting footers in for their second building. Last week I applied for a $7,500 grant with my board to build a model of Easton Gray to sit out here in the lobby, and then to be moved over to the new town hall lobby. That's to try to get people excited about what's going on in the community. Ready 2 is about to begin. Oh, I'm so excited. We're going to be part of the Indy Partnership this year. And just yesterday in a meeting, the state said to me, John, you'll get your fair share. Because I told him that when I was in Mount Vernon, Indiana, whatever the name of the program was, our 4-county region got $27 million, and the mayor of Evansville took $22,500,000, and my county got $550,000. And my fear is that same thing happening here, that if this region of 9 counties gets $40 or $50 million, that Marion County could gobble up 30 or 40 million. He assured me that will not happen. At the end of the meeting, after I told him about some of the things we were thinking about, what he said publicly, and Ryan heard this too, was, what we're interested in this time are regional strategies. And I'm thinking, regional strategy, that doesn't sound like a project to me. But we'll figure out, stay in the meetings and find out what's going on. The other thing that's happening is, you're probably aware of the LEAP up in Boone County with Eli Lilly, and the state went out and bought 8,000 acres of property, and they're putting all the infrastructure in, and Lilly's going to build $2 billion, and they're going to have other companies up there, and they want to put another one of the battery companies up there. And what we think here in this county is, one, we need to go after anything that would follow them as a company that would do business with them, but we also need to go after the employees. We need to get some of those people living down here, because it's a short 50-minute ride up 65 to get up to Lafayette or to Boone County. And I know that when Honda went into Greensburg and it didn't go to Shelbyville did everything they could to get as many employees of Honda to live in Shelbyville, and they got a little over 200 people that build houses in Shelbyville that work in Greensburg because of the short trip on 74. That's my thought process on this. I have a meeting next Tuesday with CSX, still trying to acquire that property west of the CSX yard. The property east of the yard, I also asked for that. I mean, I might as well be greedy. They probably are going to hold on to and use for parking and storage of containers as they take them off trains. But I think there's a strong possibility that we can work out a very sweet deal for the other piece of property. And so we will start with that on next Tuesday at 11 o'clock. Our assistant police chief, Brian, and I will be meeting with our friends from Salt Lake next week. We're trying to find $18,000 to pay for some cameras and some plate readers. Is that what they're called? Okay, whatever you want to call them. So we're going to be talking to Luke about whether they can do some cost sharing with us. I've pointed out to Ryan, and I said to Brian that day, I don't know why we can't take a look at, as we ask our industrial companies and our subdivisions to put in trails as they build and develop, why we can't ask for the same thing out of the industrial companies we've got. Now, the problem is you've already got 5 million square feet under construction. It'd be kind of hard to go back to them other than to maybe have individual meetings, but I'm certainly not against talking to anybody where we've been gracious enough to allow them to utilize TIF and to give them abatements on their personal property and their real property, to ask them to donate towards these kinds of things. And I've had great success over the years asking that, because we build really strong relationships with companies as they come to town. And I mean, you all know the kind of relationship we have with Luke right now. I mean, you especially, and you too. And we have a real good relationship, and to sit down and have a conversation with him about this, I don't feel bad at all to do it. And I feel that same way about all of our industrial growth. Ryan and I spoke with a lady by the name of Amanda Meyer yesterday. She's with CERTA, which is the Central Indiana Regional Transportation Authority. And they're the ones that bring the buses of people to Plainfield. And we told them that if you haven't been in Avon lately, you need to come out and you need to take a look at the buildings we have that we also will need people for. And she said, that's what we're here for. So Ryan and I are going to set up another meeting with them in their office and get with the right people there that we can start working towards seeing what we can bring out from Indianapolis in terms of labor for some of the buildings we have going up. So, any questions?
John, the bus line, was there any talk about the Plainfield bus line coming up to Avon? That's in the past. They said, well, once you get developed up here, then we
Well,
could.
see, that's part of CERTA.
Mhm.
And that's why we want to have this meeting, is we need to let them know what's going on here. You know, I kind of got the impression from Amanda when we talked to her that, wow, all that's going on in Avon? Yeah, and we need to bring them out. And I think once they see all the buildings we have and the commitments we have for future buildings, I don't think this is going to be a difficult thing. We probably will have to set up a taxing district, much like Plainfield did, to capture some money to be able to pay for this. But I think there's no reason we can't do this. Now, the problem is, since it comes out to Plainfield first, that means somebody gets on a bus in downtown Indianapolis. It may be an hour and a half before they even get to Avon. And then they got an hour and a half home. They got an 8-hour shift here. And all of a sudden they've been out here for 11 or 12 hours. And that's the only thing that in the back of my mind that bothers me about how long that could be. You know, if they're going to Plainfield, that's probably a 35 or 40-minute trip. But to get to Plainfield, empty the people out, go to the next stop, empty people out before they even get up here, that adds a lot of time to it. So we'll have those conversations and see where it takes us.
Okay. Good.
Anyone else? Yeah.
Thanks, John.
Thanks.
Good evening, Sean Stoops, Chief of Police. First of all, let me say it's great to be back. I can't tell you how tired of Florida that I got. So yeah, it's great to be back. 2 more of our police officer candidates have passed all of the final phases of testing, and they're set to start with our agency on June 5th. This will fill 4 of our 5 vacancies. We still will have that one remaining that we will need to do another hiring process for because the current list is now exhausted. Some of our other new officers, Officer Quilter, Carrier, and McDaniel, they all started the Law Enforcement Academy at the beginning of this month. They'll be there training for about the next 4 months. And then once they graduate, they will come back out and do a refresher course on their field training program. And then they'll be released to work on their loan on their respective shifts. Our Citizens Police Academy just completed their 3rd week of class so far. I know we've got a couple attendees here in attendance here tonight. I think we may have an alumni out here. Yeah. So next week, they're going to be going to the EVO course over at the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy. Anybody that's ever been to the CPA class, that's usually the most favorite week. So make sure you don't want to miss that. Members of our staff and some retirees from our department were able to attend the Sheltering Wings Gala downtown, and they were honored by the presence of former Indianapolis coach Tony Dungy as the guest speaker. So lucky for them that they were able to see that and experience that and be a part of such a great cause. While it may not be grass mowing season for the police department, it is donut season. Yes, last week we did have the donut event here at the town hall, and it sounds like, as usual, it went over well. Who doesn't like a donut? Some of our officers will also be participating next week in the Avon Dunkin' Donuts fundraiser to support Special Olympics. They're going to do this by participating in Cop on a Rooftop on May 19th from 5 a.m. to 12 p.m. They'll be up there on the roof trying to help raise some donations and raise some support for Special Olympics. So please, if you are up early at 5 a.m. and you would really like to get a donut, come over there, get a donut, donate some money, and help a great cause being the Special Olympics. In your packet, you should have everything that you normally receive, but it's in printed form this week instead of digital. So I was a little delayed on being able to get that to you. So I'll be happy to answer any questions regarding the report or updates.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Ms. Loker?
I have nothing.
Thank you. Moving on, council comment and liaison reports. Ms. Loudon.
Nothing to report.
Mr. Roberts.
Attended the Avon Community School Board meeting on Monday evening, and there's some warden presentations for the flag and the wave and the drum line. Very interesting. And also had attendance in the CPA class this week, which was outstanding.
Next week's the one you want to definitely attend.
Taking my own car.
Is that all we got, Tim?
That's it.
Mr. Susan.
Just 2 quick things. I attended and participated in the Evans Lap, the cancer event that we had here in Town Hall Park on Monday evening. And then with Leadership Hendricks County, did the, emphasize the word, tour of the county jail. And I don't know who would want to be a resident there. I can tell you that right now. So that was it.
Mr. Eisenbarth.
Yeah, that was very good, walking around the pond here. It was beautiful with all the luminaries and everything. I attended last Wednesday, the Hendricks County Communications Center. We had a meeting, and very interesting on some of these updates. I'll try not to go long, but I do want to mention, though, that the calls for service in Hendricks County, the EMS calls, they're rising greater comparable to our neighboring counties. And give you an idea, we're just from the first quarter of 2023, 911 call activity, 15,372, which is a 18% increase going readily. There's a straight line. It's linear coming back from 2019, just that recent, an 18% increase. Now, on a positive note, while the 911 calls trend continued to climb, the number of non-emergent calls continued to decline, possibly due to the citizens' ability to get information through other outlets. So in other words, they're calling the non-emergency numbers, and they're that those calls are going down. And you're not having people using 911 to figure out, hey, my mom fell down, can you give her a ride over to the pharmacy or something, which it's not funny, but those are the type calls that used to be going on. So that was good. A couple things. There's an Indiana House bill, Senate Bill 316 that passed the governor, and what that does is it really helps our local communication between our counties on their CAD recognition and their systems that they do. So that was positive. They had a number of good things going on. They're going to do some analysis of these calls, and right now they're believing they have 90% of these calls for 911 activity are law enforcement, 10% are EMS fire, which I found that differential quite a bit, not a medical, but more really passion and different things going on for the police. So I didn't mean to go on that. The Citizens Academy, I'm surprised it's not the TASER event. That's the one that everyone wants to go to. My wife made me make sure I did not sign that waiver. She says, nope, you're not having any heart things going on there. We're not going to do that. So that was it.
Steve, would you find that shocking that it's not?
Oh,
5 seconds isn't
on that, I will rest. I rest my case.
It's not that long. 5 seconds is an eternity, I promise. Last Saturday, I had the pleasure of attending the Guru Vandana, the teacher appreciation event hosted by our local Hindu community. It was held at Avon Middle School North. The appreciation and respect for teaching in the Hindu culture was very apparent, and it was just genuinely beautiful to witness. Thank you to HSS for the invitation and sharing that ceremony with us. Also, a number of us attended the Chamber's Derby fundraiser. We didn't have anyone ride an imaginary horse this year, but it was still a good time. As well, we had the Luminaria, genuinely pretty awesome. Bittersweet, I should say. It was awesome to see that there were so many loved ones, but at the same time, what they were battling. Just thank you to Bev and the American Cancer Society for hosting that. And as well, I was able to attend that Hendricks County Jail tour. It is an impressive building, and I genuinely recommend anyone to take advantage of a tour, but of course, from this side of the justice system. Sheriff Sadler said he's willing to give tours to any community leader, and I highly recommend it. It's an amazing complex. That is it for me. Moving on, new business, law enforcement agreement, and I got to assume, Sean, you're speaking to this one.
So as you know, we have a current flock agreement for our flock cameras, similar to the ones that John was mentioning. We found out earlier this year that they were going to increase the service agreement. And so we called them and kind of struck a deal, but we had to act on it now. And if we struck a deal to increase and lengthen the contract, we could lock in at the current price at $2,500 per year per camera instead of the new price that's going to be coming about for $3,000. So the contract's been provided to Ryan. We would just ask that you approve this so that we can lock into that price so that we can avoid that cost increase over the next several years. Happy to try to answer any questions.
Are we happy with this product?
Very much so, so much that we are trying to find grants and other revenue sources to get more.
That was my next question. Are we looking to add to it? And if we do, will we still get the $2,500 price?
My understanding is if it's within this time frame, I think we do, but once that is expired, we're eventually going to get locked into that new amount. It's kind of unavoidable, so.
Is it fair to compare this to the Motorola radios that we always get that always become outdated as soon as we buy them? Is this project similar?
They don't become outdated, but they do become enhanced. So there are some new products out there that actually capture more lanes of highway at a faster speed, and they do offer a few more like higher resolution and things of that nature. So it's as technology gets better, it's going to probably eventually force us to want to replace some of the older units. But right now, the units that we have work great, resolution's great, We don't have any problems with them. And the few problems that we have had, the company has come right out immediately and corrected it, fixed us, and got us back online.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, this goes hand in hand with the neighborhood and the warehouse flocks that we've been talking about as well.
Yes, as far as
Technology.
asking HOAs and
Yes.
things like that for them to, yeah, anyone can participate and purchase these. And then it's a community sharing. So as you know, we share with states all across the nation our cameras, and then in return, we get to look at theirs as well if we need to.
Thank you, sir.
Mitchell, have you had an opportunity contract kosher? Meet your
No objections.
Dawn, I think you had a question to get answered.
Greg asked it, I was just wondering, what's the rate that we have to replace these cameras? And if we have to replace one, even though we're replacing the equipment, do we still get that value because it was already on hold somewhere else? In other words,
Yeah, so moving forward in the future, once this agreement's over, we're going to be held to the new pricing standard. It's unavoidable.
Take advantage of it while we can. I
Yes.
think. If there's no further questions, would anyone like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the new 5-year flock agreement as proposed by Chief Stoops.
Also, go ahead.
We've got a first and a second. Julie, would you take a roll call vote, please?
Robert Pope,
4.
Greg Zuzen,
Four.
Steve Eisenbarth,
4.
Tim Roberts,
Four.
Don Loudon.
4.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
Yeah, thank you.
Next item on the agenda, memorandum of understanding with Avon Junior Athletic Association.
Good evening again. For 60 years, the Avon Junior Athletic Association has served our community. They are growing, but they can't continue to grow and offer programs for the community with the growth that they have and that the community deserves. Over the last few months, we've been working towards partnering with the Avon Junior Athletic Association. The Avon Parks Department and the town of Avon believe this is a wonderful opportunity to create a recreation division under the Parks Department. Our visions for this recreation department would be to provide sports and active recreation opportunities for youth, adults, and families to encourage healthy, active, and a vibrant community. The town will also be able to provide capital and financial muscle to support growth of programs, as well as provide enhancement to the current property and fields. The town is committed to acquiring properties that can be developed for active recreation, sports fields, and competitive tournaments. The town of Avon also plans in the next 5 years to grow program availability to reach more youth. We plan to offer youth, adults, special needs, and possibly family recreation events and opportunities. We believe that participating in sports prepares the kids for the future and teaches them important collaboration and communication skills. The town of Avon wants to grow annual program registrations to more than 4,200 participants and become the largest youth recreation program in the state of Indiana. We're currently second as of 2022. The town looks forward to hopefully partnering with the Avon Community School Corporation to enhance opportunities, provide greater access to better and higher quality facilities, and work with quality coaches. Community spirit and pride often grow from the success of the school's athletic and band. The town is excited to be a prospect of supporting the school in this effort. On Friday, April 21st, the Board of Directors at the Avon Junior Athletic Association signed the Memorandum of Understanding. The Park and Recreation Beautification Committee vetted this Memorandum of Understanding on May 3rd and voted all in favor of presenting it to the council. With that, the PRBC, staff, and myself recommend approval of the Memorandum of Understanding to partner with the Avon Junior Athletic Association from the Town Council. And I will take any questions.
You kind of rushed through it, but
Sorry.
PRBC,
Park and Recreation Beautification
Park
Committee.
Board approved this.
Yes.
I know this is something we've worked on for a little while. This is still, this is nothing in stone. This is just the first of many steps.
Good step.
I'm genuinely excited about the potential opportunity this is going to provide for the future of our young people. This is, I think, an amazing opportunity.
It is. And Shelby, thanks for all your work. You were really good with this. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Well, before we give out the accolades, I'll make a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding between Avon Junior Athletic Association and the town of Avon as presented.
I want to
Second.
second this. Oh, you
Oh, my. Whoa.
Beat ya.
That's all right. We have a first and a second. Julie, would you take a roll call vote, please?
Tim Roberts,
4?
Don Loudon,
4.
Robert Pope,
4.
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Steve Eisenbarth.
4.
Job well done.
Well done.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Well done.
Thank you,
Well
guys.
done.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, consideration of tax abatement compliance forms. Mr. Taylor.
I hope you're as genuinely excited about this as I am.
Is it mowing season?
This is the Leo Brown Group. And of course, every year they have to submit a CF1. We take a look at it as a council. You make a decision whether you're going to continue the abatement based on whether or not they have substantially complied with what they said they were going to do. They indicated that they were going to invest 54.3 million dollars, and they invested 57.1 million. They said they're going to employ 132 people with a payroll of 4.8 million, and they employ 170 people with a payroll of 7.5 million. So based on this, I would ask that you approve their continued abatement.
Is this the last year of this abatement?
No, this just started in 16. That's when they got the abatement in 10, but they didn't complete the project till 16.
And there's how many years left on the abatement?
So this one's a little confusing because there's actually 3 properties in the abatement. And so it's Park Square, it's the skilled nursing, and then there's another one. And so the first one is actually in its last year. The other 2 have 2 years left. So one's at 5%, the other 2 are at 10%.
Does this encompass all 3?
Yes, it does.
It does.
Because it was all part of that same.
So it wouldn't matter what the parcel would be, it's still encompassed.
Yeah, correct.
It sounds like they've met, what's
Substantially complied.
substantially complied.
Yeah, double.
A little more so, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like there's no reason for us not to continue this. If there's any more comments, questions, would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the LBG 2 tax abatement as presented.
We have a first and a second.
You get
Julie,
chance.
would you mind taking a roll call vote, please?
Steve Eisenbarth,
4.
Tim Roberts,
4?
Don Loudon,
4.
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Robert Pope.
4. Next item on the agenda, final reading ordinance 20, thanks, John, I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
Final reading ordinance 2023-07, amending the stop streets schedule. Steve's not here, so I assume Mitchell, you're gonna speak to it.
Yep.
Roger.
So if you remember last month, you commissioned Etika Group to conduct a stop sign warrant study at the intersection of Beechwood Drive and Beechwood Center. Pursuant to that study, they recommended switching the stop signs at that intersection to allow northbound traffic on Beechwood Drive to be free flowing, and then the east and westbound traffic on Beechwood Center Road to be stopped and awaiting on them. So pursuant to that approval, what this ordinance does is simply codifies that in the Stop Streets Appendix as part of your code book. This is for second reading tonight, and I'll welcome any questions you have.
This just essentially brings this into compliance with more or less every other commercial entrance like this.
Makes it safer.
Any questions, comments? Anyone like to make a motion? This is final reading.
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance 2023-07, the stop street schedule for the Beechwood Center.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Julie, would you take a roll call vote, please?
Robert Pope,
4.
Steve Eisenbarth,
4.
Don Loudon,
4.
Tim Roberts,
4?
Greg Zuzen.
4.
Excuse me. Next item on the agenda, introduction of ordinance 2023-08, amending the 2023 salary ordinance. And I assume you will be speaking to this, Ryan.
Yeah, I'll speak to it. you guys pass a salary ordinance every year, typically your last meeting of the year. You guys can amend that as needed. And so there are a couple of things that have actually triggered this. The first one, which we talked about earlier today at our work session, was the potential for double time for police officers working in Operation Pullover. So in order for Julie to actually pay them at that rate, we have to amend the salary ordinance to include that. So you'll notice on Appendix A, that's been modified to Operation Pullover and allows the town to pay the officers at double time. The other one was actually on your agenda tonight as well, which was the MOU, which contemplates the town bringing on the existing staff from AJAA. So in order to do that, we have to amend the salary ordinance to include those positions with pay. So those are shown on here as well. And then the third one, which I had reported to all of you, the stormwater utility previously had discussions about amending their field engineer position to a GIS position, a GIS engineer position. And in order to do that and to attract someone with those qualifications, we would have to pay at a higher rate. And so that did go to the Stormwater Board. The Stormwater Board approved that job description and a higher pay rate. But in order for us to actually hire that person, then we have to also amend the salary ordinance. So we are making all three of those changes to the salary ordinance. You can see all of them on Appendix A. And I'm happy to answer any questions. This is just the introduction.
I really miss Daniel. He was doing a great job. GIS can be a lucrative skill set.
We talked earlier about tying this to the grant program, which you do show on your Exhibit A. But on the other handout, you have it underscored that this hourly duty rate of pay, regardless of the funding source. So those two don't really tie together. I just want to make certain that that pay is tied to whatever grant that is out there that we're getting reimbursed through.
Yeah, I may defer that to Sean. Sean, that was in the policy that Brian provided that I think was a draft policy in your SOP. I don't know if you have that in front of you, Sean, but.
You talking for the overtime?
Go ahead and repeat your questioning again, Greg.
Well, and here it's underscored that it says this hourly rate of pay regardless of the funding source. And we had talked earlier about the funding source is coming from Operation Pullover. Well, maybe it's not Operation Pullover, it's click a ticket seatbelt or something. I just want to make certain that whatever the grant funding program is, you get reimbursed through that. And when those dollars are expired, it doesn't come out of our budget.
Right. It's going to come from the Indiana Criminal Justice Institute, regardless of the funding source, whether it's Operation Pullover, whether it's click it or ticket, whether it's DUI enforcement, whatever it might be. It's only tied to the Indiana Criminal Justice Institute funding that's going to come through all of those different programs as
Maybe we should just include that Indiana Criminal Justice.
So that's probably a good
Institute funding.
question for
That way it
Mr. Ray.
kind of captures it all.
Mhm.
Okay, that was all I had.
Any further questions, comments? All right. Let the record show ordinance 08, amending the 2023 salary ordinance has been introduced. Next item on the agenda, introduction of ordinance 2023-09, amending purchasing authority.
Yes, this ordinance makes a few changes to your purchasing agents and purchasing authorities. So the first thing that this does is add some new department heads from the last time you updated this, which I think was 2008 or 2015, about that time. So we added the new departments heads that we have now and that we're expecting in the future. The second thing it does is increases the purchasing agent's ability to make what the state calls small purchases, and that's just to allow for more efficiency and flexibility in those purchases. So currently, ordinance states that any department head has the ability to unilaterally purchase goods and services up to $5,000. Your town manager can, without your authority, approve purchases up to $10,000. What these changes will do will allow to increase the department heads to go up to that $10,000 threshold. And they can go up to 50,000 with the town manager's approval. That is all, of course, subject to the appropriation of funds in the budget and all of our internal controls process as well. With that, obviously, the town manager would have an increase to approve anything up to 50,000. And anything above 50,000, whether that's services or goods or supplies, will come back to you for approval. So you might ask why 50,000? I'm not pulling that number out of the air, I promise. A few years ago, the legislator increased that threshold of small purchases from 25,000 to 50,000. So by doing that, the state signals to you that for efficiency purposes, they believe that your staff and that you guys can handle purchases under $50,000 without having to go into the additional requirements of the public purchasing rules or even the formal bidding process. So that is why we raised the threshold to 50,000. I don't think our ordinance had been updated since I think 2008 or 2015. If you look at other communities in the state, they either predominantly have 50,000 if they've caught up to that new law a few years ago, or they're still at 25,000. And for example, Hendricks County is at 25,000, but if you look at that ordinance, it was last updated in 1998. So again, this wouldn't bring you out of compliance with any of the surrounding areas or anything like that. It just allows your staff to make things more efficient because, as you can imagine, costs have gone up a little bit in the past 15 years. This is for introduction tonight, and I'll welcome any questions you have.
I think you said it, but I just want to make sure and clarify we still have control over any of these purchases via the budget process. So in other words, Ryan won't be authorized to spend $50,000 on some random project he wants. We still have to approve it in the prior year's budget.
That's absolutely correct. Yep.
Maybe, I know Julie's report has all the expenses and things, but when we have a larger expense like that, it'd be kind of nice to have that in the agenda, or, have it as a department review, maybe, that just so that we catches our attention that here's where we are in budget. Here's what's been spent. It's within budget. Those are kind of helpful for us looking at it. Just to, I guess that's a suggestion for Ryan, just to kind of think that through. That's all.
Just two quick things. It's probably more administrative. Underneath purchasing agents and agencies, underneath A, we have court administrator in there. That's going to be dissolved. Is there a need to have that in there? And then you have red line version, planning and building director, and then in a regular, it's still planning director. So I'm assuming one of those goes away. Or is planning and building director one and the same? Okay.
Mike is planning building director, and then Bill is planning director.
That's all I am.
Any further questions, comments? All right, let the record show ordinance 2023-09, amending purchasing authority as introduced. Next item on the agenda, introduction of ordinance 2023-10, Central Indiana Regional Development Authority membership authorization. It's another CERTA.
Yeah, another CERTA, just to make it CERTA with the D. So this will make things confusing. So this is Central Indiana Regional Development Authority. A state law actually passed last year, or actually about a year and a half ago, allowing governments in regional areas to partner together to kind of create groups to really support regional economic development. And so this is a little bit ties along with what we've been doing in Ready. And if you guys recall from when we did Ready, they had us partner with areas here. With one of the grant recipients in Ready was actually the White River Alliance, which is working to develop the White River corridor through Indianapolis and in Fishers, Noblesville. And so those organizations at the time needed a mechanism to actually facilitate that. And so that's really what that was born out of, was CERTA. As you guys know, we've worked with ours, and ours is actually being managed and operated through the MPO. So these are kind of both similar mechanisms, but the idea of CERTA is to actually grow and to become a regional economic development thing, both from a visionary standpoint of implementing grants and working together in a regional nature. We expect Ready 2 is going to encourage us to work across our entire region. And so it's going to look a little different than what Ready 1 is. And so these kind of regional banding together are going to become really important. There's an EPA grant that CERTA is applying for that will go towards sustainability and reduction of greenhouse gases. And the CERTA is actually going to be the grant administrator for that. There's also some other grants that have been received that will be regional in nature. And so this CERTA group is really just kind of starting to grow. It started as that kind of small piece, and now it's growing into other areas. I did attend their May meeting was yesterday in Fishers, so I did attend that. And so it was interesting to kind of observe it and just see how it worked. They do the way the process really works is if the town council decides to join, in June, we would end up on their agenda and they would approve our participation. And so this is kind of the steps we have to go through. I strongly think this is in the town of Avon's best interest. Yesterday, Plainfield was approved for participation. Right now, it's heavily participated by on the north side. So I think it's really important as our region, especially on the west side, to be represented. And so if we're not there, we don't have a voice. And so I think that's really important. On top of it, I think some of you may have participated in the past in the CICEO group, which was created kind of along the same concept, but it didn't have any statutory authority. And so I think that CICEO group has now kind of morphed into this group. But now it actually has the ability to receive grants. It has the ability to send money. It actually has the ability to hire. And in that lies a little bit of maybe what would be a concern for all of you. There is discussion at some point that there may need to be a staff that would staff CERTA or who would work for CERTA. Right now, Fishers has kind of taken the burden. Their staff is basically staffing it for now, but the vision is eventually that may need to lie somewhere else. And so there could in the future, there's not any financial obligation at this point, but at some point, similar to how we participate in the MPO, there may be some participation requirement. And as you guys well know, our participation in the MPO has came back to us multifold in terms of what we pay to participate in the MPO to what we get in terms of federal funds for road improvements. And I feel pretty strongly that being a participant in CERTA will work in the same manner. And again, I think if this works the way it's envisioned to work, it will also be a group that will lobby and work on behalf of what's in the best interest of Central Indiana. So I do think it'd be valuable for us to be a part of it. I'm happy to answer any questions. This is just an introduction.
Just one question, right? So CERTA, the staff that you're talking about, they'll work for the state or for the town?
They would actually work for CERTA.
For CERTA.
So there's a board.
Right.
And that's what, if we end up joining CERTA, we would have an appointment to the board. And so they would actually, that person would report to the board.
Okay. Thank you.
You mentioned that they might need to hire staff. I'm going to I believe I know the answer, but I believe we're going to be responsible for essentially our equal share if we ever get to that point of that staff member's salary. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes. Yep.
I'm assuming they're going to create some type of template that will determine our percentage of contribution. It's not going to be equal across the board.
Correct. And that's why it's important for us to get somebody there so we can participate in those discussions. If we're not a part of it, we don't have any say. So that's why I think we need to be at the table to make those decisions. Greg, that's exactly how the MPO works. They created a model. It's based on your population. And so you make a contribution based on your population and towards whatever that funding is. So I would envision that's what they would do, something similar to that.
And is there a staff member you have in mind who sit on that board? Would that be yourself?
It would probably be myself, would probably be my recommendation, but we can certainly have discussions about that. You could appoint council president too, if you guys choose to do it.
For 1 week, man.
I think for stability, it makes sense that Ryan would probably be that person.
You're our technical advisor on the MPO.
I'm your policy
advisor
policy
on-
rep
on
for you.
CPO. Yeah, essentially be the same thing, yeah.
Well, I'd say Ryan would make the perfect one because he's interfacing with the other mayors, the other town managers, et cetera, so. And hopefully your job doesn't change as often as our jobs change.
Yeah, stability.
I hope not too. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? All right, let the record show ordinance 2023-10 Central Indiana Regional Development Authority membership authorization as introduced. Next item, legal counsel report. Mr. Ray.
Nothing else from me. Thanks.
Right. Next on the agenda, second opportunity for public comment. Please come to the microphone, state your name and address, limit your time to 3 minutes. All right, seeing no one come forward, we'll close that section of public comment. Second chance, council comment, anyone?
I'll just say thanks to the community members that came out and voted during the primary. We appreciate that they came out and that they used their voice to speak.
Maybe I'll say, Mental Health Awareness Month, it's just good to, kind of do things to make sure that everyone's in check in their thinking and being sensitive to people and of that area. So it's one of these things I'm starting to be aware of that. In the construction world, we've got some people pretty wound tight. So I'm kind of more aware of, just being respectful of people that have what struggles they carry on a personal level. That's all. Just nothing, no meat to it, but just help us to keep thinking that way this month.
Mitchell, without going into any detail, the executive session we had regarding our lawsuit, did we initiate that? Yes or no?
It will be initiated tomorrow.
Thank you.
Ryan, council calendar.
Next meeting is May 25th at 7 PM. And as we discussed earlier at our work session, we are going to do a work session before it at 5:30 PM.
Just for the record, I won't be able to be at that meeting. Yeah.
Understood. Thanks, Steve. Meeting adjourned. Thanks.